we begin with some unexpected news coming out of Iran. Nahid Taghavi, a German-Iranian activist, has been released from Iranian custody after being kept there against her will for more than 4 years. Now, her daughter, Mariam, posted this video of the moment that she and her mother were reunited at the airport. She also posted a statement expressing her joy that her mother is safely back home. Now, 70-year-old Taghavi was arrested during a trip to Tehran back in 2020. She was sentenced to 10 years in prison for allegedly spreading propaganda against the state and for alleged involvement in an illegal group. She claims to have been tortured and that she was held in solitary confinement for months. All right, I want to bring in our political correspondent, Simon Young, here in Berlin. He's following this story for us. Simon, so she was imprisoned in Iran for more than 1,500 days. Do we know what led to her being released, and do we know why it's happening now?
Yeah, Brett, I think there are three ways perhaps to answer that. On the one hand, it appears to be the result of a campaign by supporters of Nahid Taghavi who have been calling for her to be released from jail and in particular because of medical problems that she was suffering from. And they successfully got her released. From September. She was allowed to live at home, but she had to wear an ankle tag. So that continuing pressure, in part at least, may be behind the fact that she's now been allowed to leave the country altogether. Secondly, I think the German government has been making efforts. It says it has, at least behind the scenes. And Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock said today that it was a great moment of joy that Nahid Taghavi was able to be with her family again. And then thirdly, you've got to look at the fact that another round of talks has begun just today in Geneva between Iran and Germany, France and Britain. These are talks relating to Iran's nuclear program, which is a very key issue for Tehran. They want sanctions, international sanctions, lifted, especially before Donald Trump returns to the White House. And of course, some people have made the link, said this is a goodwill gesture by Tehran. There's no official confirmation of that, but that's what it looks like.
And Simon, what do we know about the role of the German government in this case?
Well, nothing really has been made public, and the German government makes it pretty clear that they like to keep this type of case away from the media as far as they can. But what I can say is that Nahid Taghavi's daughter has been in contact with the German Foreign Ministry throughout the period of her mother's detention, and she thanked everybody who's been involved in securing the release. But she has also criticised in the past the German approach, saying that she was told not to talk about the case publicly and that she'd indeed never heard a German government representative mention her mother's name officially. And she said that she preferred the French approach. The French government have talked much more publicly, and indeed they've designated their citizens who have been held by Tehran as political hostages.
Yeah, we have to say there really is no love lost between Tehran and Berlin. Last October, Germany closed the 3 Iranian consulates in the country in response to the execution of a German-Iranian dual national. I mean, what is the relationship between these two countries? How would you describe it at the moment?
Well, I'd describe it as very strained. That was the case of Jamshid Shamid, who was sentenced to death by Tehran. The Iranians say that, in fact, he died in jail before the sentence could be carried out. But Germany called it cold-blooded murder and said there would be consequences. Consulates were closed, but the embassies have been kept open. Both sides, I think, probably want to maintain dialogue as far as it's possible, but it's fair to say that the relations between the two countries at the moment are very limited and have been strained for some time.
Our political correspondent Simon Young with the latest tonight here in Berlin. Simon, thank you. Well, I'm joined now by Daniela Sepehri. She's a German-Iranian activist who, together with Taghavi's daughter, hosts a podcast that focuses on political prisoners in Iran. It's good to have you with us this evening. I know you've been campaigning for Nahid Taghavi's release for months now. How does it feel today?
It's amazing. I still can't believe it. And it's very good to see this amazing pictures of Nahid and her daughter reunited at the airport in Cologne after over 4 years. They finally deserve to live in peace.
We can understand the euphoria, reunions, especially after 4 years. But tell us more about how this situation came to be. Tell us about the woman, and also why was she imprisoned in Iran?
So Nahid Taghavi is an advocate for women's rights and workers' rights. She is active since the 1970s for human rights in general, and that led to her imprisonment in Iran in 2020. But most importantly, her German passport, her German citizenship, led to her arrestment and imprisonment for so many years. There have been several occasions where we could clearly see that she is a hostage in the hand of the Islamic Republic of Iran, and that she is being used as a pressure tool against the German government, against the European Union. Sadly, the German government did not recognize that she is a hostage. That's the reason she got arrested by the Revolutionary Guard Corps.
Well, explain a little bit more to me about what is it about her having a German passport that made her a target for the Islamic Republic?
So we see that since the beginning of the Islamic Republic, actually, this regime takes hostages from European countries, from the US, and from all over the world to put pressure on the governments to exchange terrorists who are imprisoned in Europe or the US, or agents of the IRGC. We could see that example last week when an Italian hostage was released in exchange for an agent of the Revolutionary Guard Corps in Italy. And that's a strategy this regime is doing for over 4 decades now. But sadly, the European Union does not recognize this hostage diplomacy as it should. So there is no clear strategy to work against this.
Yeah, I want to pick up on that. I mean, you've been critical of the strategy that the German government has followed in this case, also the European Union. What do you think could have been done differently? What should have been done differently?
In my opinion, this strategy of this so-called silent diplomacy has failed long ago. Other countries are not following this strategy. For example, France, Macron is always calling publicly for the release of the French hostages, calling them hostages. We never hear that word from the German government so far. And that's very important to put pressure on the regime. What we have seen the last 4 years is that no one really put pressure on the regime in Iran, which also led to the government in Germany doing nothing for another German citizen, Jamshid Sharmat, who was also imprisoned for 4 years and finally killed by the state in prison. This shows that this tragedy has completely failed.
Well, what do you say then to people who say, we know the danger, we know what the risk is if we do dare to venture into Iran? So if you go to Iran, especially as a woman from the West, you're doing it at your own risk.
Yes, but also I'm not a big fan of putting the guilt on the people who are imprisoned, because it's the Islamic Republic imprisoning people, especially Nahid Taghavi. She's also German and also Iranian. So it's her right to go to her land where she was born, to the country where she was born, and it's the Islamic Republic at fault imprisoning these people. So what we're advocating for, together with the people in Iran, is the fall of this regime so that the people can live in freedom.
Well, we know that you and a lot of people are very happy tonight that we are able to report on a happy reunion, a happy homecoming. Daniela Sepehri, we appreciate you taking the time to talk with us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.